vote on that. The hammer, I'll wait till he gets in here. Y'all, we're going to get started. I don't want to be late. Gary may have to be somewhere. He's talking about going to that other capital city tomorrow. So, anyway, we may be a little short. This Ag Committee hadn't met but the last 13 years at 8 o'clock on Wednesday morning. And they up and called a caucus meeting this morning, so some folks may rather go listen to the argument than find out what's going on with the crops in Georgia, which is okay. Clay, would you ask a prayer for all us and all that crowd that's in such a mess?
Okay. Bow with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, God, I do thank you for this day and for the blessings. Lord, as we are on the cusp of planting season, Lord, I pray that you will grant favor on those that till the soil, those that are stewards of this land that you have given us to look after. Lord, I pray that we will honor you with the first fruits thereof. Lord, I thank you for leadership here, of the chairman, and I thank you for our ag department in the state. Lord, I pray that you'll give each of them and us wisdom as we go about your work in making things easier and better and using resources for the farmers and for the ag industry in the state. And Lord, I pray that we'll give you honor and glory and praise. Everything that's done and said here, in your name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, sir. There may be a few more stroll on in. A couple of folks I want to recognize. Jody, thank you for coming. He is Senator Isaacson's ag guy, and we appreciate you making it this far today. And there's a few folks with the department that don't normally show up at ag committee meeting, and if y'all just wave, Amy Carter, Market Bulletin. She takes care of everything you see and read in the Market Bulletin. Kelly Williams will show you something in a little bit. She's with marketing, and Mr. Freeman is a school nutrition person. Is that right? And then Julie McPeak, who is a communications director and absolutely loves helicopters with brakes on them. She did good flying Friday, but every time we'd start going down, she'd start singing to herself. But when they stopped at my house, they ran up on it too quick and had to put on brakes, and she didn't have time to get to her happy place. If I'd have had a camera, it would have been, I could have sold that picture. Gary, if you want to come up here and Gary, we saw some lucky people Friday, and we saw some folks that are devastated Friday. And also, you said you had an update on AI, right?
And a little bit of it. You want me to sit in here and need to be on that? Okay. What we'd love to share with the committee a little bit what we saw and what update with respect to the weather, the damage that we've seen. Number two, I would like to ask Misty and Kelly to come up and share a little bit about Ag Week things, and we do have a video for you that's out in the school system that I think y'all are gonna like. It's pretty good stuff. And then number three, a quick update about AI, and Bo and I will share some at least kind of get you a graphic representation of where this thing is. But before I start that, Mr. Chairman, and to all my friends here, y'all are y'all been mighty good to us this session, and that we kind of pinch ourselves because when we look at the fact that we got what we asked for. We needed vehicles, and we got what we needed. We got our normal requests for our markets and keeping those things up, and we got exactly what we asked for. We did a little blue sky asking about the fairgrounds and it doubling the size of the Georgia Grown building there, and we've all talked about that birthing center that could be during the fair where you could teach children, and that looks like that's in pretty good shape too from conference. We have 4 bills that y'all considered. We have 4 bills now that are on the governor's desk, and not one of them's got an amendment. Now, a couple of those were not exactly heavy lifts, but they were important to kind of get the language right, so we can try to do right. And so, we don't know what to say this thank you, because that's a big deal, and we're very grateful, and we'll do right by you, I promise. And we're thankful for you. Thanks to Chairman McCall for joining us Friday. We held hands with folks and prayed with folks and did a lot all through Wednesday night and Thursday night. And but then when we got there Friday, at least in 2 locations, in Alma and in Homerville, we stared into the face of despair. Not lost hope, but we saw hurt, and we saw some folks that in pretty good predicament. Maybe we start with the low and end with the high, because the low is I think this blueberry crop very, very, very conservatively is 60% lost. I think it's more than that. For it to arrive at 75% would not surprise me. So some of the news folks that we've been talking to, well, what kind of numbers is that? Well, if this crop's worth $400 million, which it is, and they had the biggest crop that they had the promise of the best crop they've ever had, then that's $300 million. And that goes directly to the bottom line of rural communities all throughout this state. The biggest issue that blueberry folks have right now is they need to take those bushes from the height of the ceiling. They need to take them down to right here, so that they can regenerate the growth for next year and move on to the 18 crop, because that's basically it. One of the biggest challenges they have, and that's what I'm so thankful Jody, Mr. Redding is here, and with Senator Isaacson, Congressman Carter, Congressman Scott, Congressman Bishop, Congressman Allen, and Senator Perdue. Our biggest challenge right now is to make sure that the RMA does what they need to do with crop insurance. Unfortunately, I have a letter from one of the directors out of Valdosta that is instructing all the adjusters right now to not allow do not allow any manipulation of those bushes until the end of the season. If that happens, it will have the onset of disease, and these producers will be fighting that disease for another 2 or 3 years. What the RMA needs to do is allow them to swiftly get in there, mow those bushes down, and move on to the 18 crop. And that will save quite a bit of having to fight. Where you have potential 15,000 pounds per acre, and there might be some 200 pounds left out there, but so we're going to sacrifice a couple of more generations so that we can worry about what the yield's going to be at 200 pounds out of 15,000 is just insidious. I mean, it's we're going to have to do so. We really appreciate Jody's efforts, and we got some work to do there. But I hope we can get that decision reversed, and we'll keep you posted. And I know Representative Watson, we were going back and forth some earlier last week, and a little bit of a burn back. We've got some loss. We got some losses in vegetables, and we got some delay. Because maybe a little setback, but generally speaking, and some of it's not quite as bad, but it's still going to be pretty rough. Is that what you assess? And I know Representative Corbett's brother was pretty much sure about 50 acres of bell pepper, and he said, well, it's just 50 acres. 50 acres of bell pepper, when you look at the input cost on that, it's several $100,000 just from that at the beginning. And you replicate that several times, all of a sudden that gets into the millions of dollars pretty quick too. So peach is seeming like it's a little better than you and I saw. That is until at Jaymore last night they had hail 1 week after 21 degrees. So in North Georgia, so I'm waiting to hear. Jaymore caught another end of the spectrum last night, and then had strawberries. I'm not going to say beat to death, but the strawberries that survived 21 degrees last week got hail last night. So we'll see on that. Peach though could be north of 50%, which last week Friday I wouldn't have told you that. I think everybody'd been tickled with a third Friday, but and Representative Dickey's problem, as some of y'all probably talked to him, his problem is he hadn't had enough cold weather to start with, and so they don't know whether these blooms are going to push out. And now that they're beginning to appear, that may be the blessing, because normally they would have already been out, and had they been out, they'd have been all been killed. So, but up until last night in North Georgia, they were thinking north of 50% of a crop, and I still think, I talked to Representative Dickey's son last night, and they were still cautiously optimistic. Maybe the crop's a little better than we found it on Friday. Vidalia onion crop is the best I've ever seen. It's the best that anyone's ever seen. They were not hurt at all. Matter of fact, they maybe were helped a little bit because it slowed them down. They're quite frankly growing too fast. But it doesn't take these heat units start picking back up at 74, 80, and 78 degrees. So our opening date's April 12th. We did move that up. And everybody's tickled, and I think we're poised to have the best crop. You and I probably tasted the best Vidalia onion that I can remember in a long time, and it's still what's today, the 22nd. It's still 2 weeks from being dug. So I think the prospects of having a good crop there are pretty doggone good. Mr. Chairman, that's kind of where we are, and that's what we saw. But it is it's a sobering thing to look in the faces of your friends that just lost 3/4 of their crop, and we just need to keep them in our prayers and lift them up and encourage them. But I'll wrap up with this. Jarl Eccles, who is Drew Eccles in Jaymore, north of Gainesville, that's his dad. He was recognized as Hall County's Farm of the Year yesterday. And an amazing thing. My daughter sent me the note during the speech. It said, Jarl said, God's more interested in growing men than he is peaches. That's a good word right there. Now that's not an easy word sometimes, but I think that's something we all kind of keep and remember that. That's pretty strong medicine. So Anybody got a question about that?
Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Commissioner, on the blueberry situation outside of southeast Georgia, are you seeing or hearing anything like from the middle Georgia and north Georgia pick your own operations, which we've got some in our area that are pretty significant operations? What are you hearing there?
Representative Williams, I think they're in the same boat because anybody doesn't have any. The only thing that's been preserved is those that had over the top frost protection, which I would remind you is frost protection, not freeze protection. Mm-hmm. But it appeared to work. At least some. Most folks are thinking that because we have the rabbit eyes generally early, and then the high bush is what comes on, and the ones I've been talking to that they were able to get the water out, have at least saved something. But you didn't have protection. I can't imagine up our way anything being able to survive the temperatures that we had, and that may pop up. Other thing that we saw at Jaymore. And you talk about the Lord's hand protecting the peach tree. I don't understand that, and people can try to explain it. And it's just all it is we saw open flowers that survived 21 degrees, and I know how that happened, but I just don't. I can't. But it's so odd when you got a branch with an open flower that's alive and a closed bud that's dead, mm-hmm. on the same branch. And so, it's as if the Lord said, doop, 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 and then did Drew's thinning for him. Mm-hmm. So, but I'm afraid blueberries in pretty tough shape.
Thank
you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question and then maybe a follow-up after you address it. But I've been talking to a lot of the folks back home. I serve Coffee County, mm-hmm. Bacon County, Jeff Davis, and we got a pile of blueberries. The ones that have younger bushes that don't produce over 1,000 pounds a yield per year are not able to get the crop damage insurance, is what I understand. And they're the ones I think that are kind of really in sort of panic mode because of trying to get some help. What does that mean, I guess, when they say, do you declare a disaster? And what happens in the way of help when you declare a disaster? And are there resources that we can kind of direct them to help them with that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Really, very good question. First thing we try to remind everybody Friday is whatever there's a logarithmic effect on information that you need to pay attention to, because one day begets 2, begets 4, begets 8 real quick. And so it's important to document, take pictures. I hope we got that into folks. And write down names, whoever you talk to at FSA, whoever you talk to at RMA, make sure you get names, make sure you get telephone numbers, make sure you get emails, because it's very difficult for us to reconstruct a situation where somebody has a problem 3 weeks from now and they say, I can't remember who I talked to. That's just tough. So hopefully we got that message out and got it out through Extension as well. The biggest thing right now, we're working with Extension very closely. Dr. Mark McCann and Laura Perry Johnson, we've already been meshed together, and Extension's, of course, very well versed in gathering this data. But it's most important that we get that data up so that data comes first to the governor. The governor requests a secretarial disaster, which is what I believe we've got to do. Parenthetically, there's pretty important hearing tomorrow in Washington. I think there'll be a real good vote, and if they possibly get a vote next week, would it not be odd that the new Secretary of Agriculture's first action is actually declaring a disaster here, which would be it's kind of surreal, but and I've kept him abreast of this as we've been going and plan to see him tonight anyway. So what happens if that happens? Basically, right now is Small Business Administration, low interest loans. But the days of disaster, they are gone. The only thing we've got now is Misery Loves Company. They're not going to be a peach packing operation open in the state of South Carolina this year. My counterpart told me earlier this week, not a one. And North Carolina's just as bad. So, Misery Loves Company. If those congressional delegations decide to get together and try to work something out, then that's the only pathway I would see to anything other than just the SBA loans available under disaster.
Just to kind of follow up on that, we had a Dean Pardue from the Ag College was here, and one of the things I had asked him and Ms. Johnson was, since the extension offices are our first line of defense or offense or whatever it is, in a situation just like this in my area, they are already stretched to the limit of what they can do day to day. And maybe you or some others could help us stress to Ms. Johnson and Dean Pardue that we have got to put the people back in place as quickly as possible, whether it's vegetables over in Representative Watson's district or if it's blueberries and stuff in on my part of the state. But I can imagine these folks are going to be running to these ag extension offices panicking, hey, what do I do when I take these pictures and I document, and so that was my follow-up. I thought that was what you would say as far as ag extension services, but I mean, we still have a lot of counties down there don't have, particularly in those counties that are very rural, like with Representative Corbett's area. My Lord, he got 7 counties across from I-95 to 75, and about half of those counties or more probably don't have an agent. And so maybe you can put in a good word for us with them.
Yes, sir. We will. And Mr. Chairman, not to, it's a little premature because all of these details are nowhere near where they be. But I would call your attention to four words that we're going to be using quite a bit over the course of the next year or two. And we're going to suggest to a lot of people, I think a lot of people are going to, might want to take a real strong look at what we're talking about, particularly as we plot out the future course of the state. And I would suggest to you that agriculture makes life better for every Georgian. And we're going to be probably introducing some initiatives that people could consider in the future to understand that that's what this is all about. I mean, what we do here and what your committee does makes life better for all Georgians. And so if we have some ideas of how some logs to throw on that fire, like what you're talking about, I'm going to suggest that we make those a part of that discussion moving forward, because we talk about our economic importance a lot, and sometimes I'm just not sure whether that. When you get facts and figures, people say, "Yeah, that's real good," but we're going to try to simplify some of our messaging moving forward, and that's about as simple, but it's about as true as anything I know. Really, what your farmers do down in Donaldsonville, Georgia, Representative Dukes, they make life better for the rest of Georgia. And so. And that's kind of what we do. We like to think what we do at this department too, because people don't understand exactly what we do sometimes. Well, that's what we do. The things we do make life better for all Georgians. And if we can get people to kind of buy into that notion moving forward, that might help with getting some more extension agents and doing the things that we need to do to plan for the future of the department. And we're going to have some ideas for you moving in the next few months. Don't forget those 4 words.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one quick question. I know we did a lot to be prepared, but could you give us an update on the poultry and chicken issues?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we can go ahead and do that, Mr. Chairman. If that move. Yeah. Thank you, Representative Taylor. No, that what we're passing out right now, Representative Taylor, is there's one premise that's not on here. There's a this has been we're now into week 3 of our current avian influenza situation. It's important to point out that none of these premises are in Georgia. I'm thankful we've been protected thus far, and our hope is that that's the way it will remain. The 2 commercial circles that you see are in the same county. They're in Lincoln County, Tennessee. One of them was the very first one. It was highly pathogenic and was I believe a 7 or 8 house operation, a breeder hen operation in Tennessee. Then we moved into the sequence of these stars is not particularly important as much as it is to note that they are in the not in the Atlantic Flyway. We are in the Atlantic Flyway. This is Mid-America or Mississippi Flyway. So it's interesting to point out too that thus far they've either been backyard flocks or poultry at an exhibition or breeder hen operations. We do not have an answer to why breeder hen operations, particularly when they are the highest degree of biosecurity facilities that we have. They're wash in, wash out. I mean, that's just routine. That's not a heightened level of biosecurity. It's what they do every day. But yet we've had and the one that's not on here is we've got a new one. I think it's going to be low path in Kentucky. It's confirmed low path yesterday. All right, Julie, that was confirmed low path in Kentucky yesterday. It's a breeder operation too. So that kind of gets your mind wandering a little bit. That we need to be careful how that. But we don't have forensically don't have an answer to that yet.
We're still clear in Georgia.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Still important. Remind your constituents too. Maybe a couple of things. This is a very, very, very low risk public health issue. It is not a food safety issue. All flocks get tested before they go to slaughter anyway, so none of that would ever enter the food chain, if it was ever to be anywhere. There are trade implications now. We've got. I think the latest one was Dominican Republic 2 days ago decided to draw a 60-mile circle and said we're not taking any chicken from any there, which is odd. We don't sell them much anyway, but we're not sure whether that's going to impact any Georgia operations simply because of the proximity to where these facilities are. But I can tell you, I wish you could have been in our exercise yesterday. Every Tuesday is avian influenza day at the department, where we have our team meets actually more than every Tuesday, but we've continued to conduct exercises every Tuesday or every other Tuesday for almost 2 years.
Well, thank you. We have been more prepared than I think anybody, and I appreciate that.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Yes, ma'am. I can tell you, Ms. McPeak has done stellar job of even keeping our counterparts on the correct message within the communication chain. She's done an awesome job, and Dr. Cobb and Dr. Zavala at the poultry lab in Gainesville. We're very blessed. We've got the best people on the planet.
I would like to make a comment first. I'd like to just thank Chairman McCall and Commissioner Black for taking the time last Friday to come around and visit these farms. I mean, it's like you said, the look in the face, we had 40 or 50 blueberry farmers there, and it was just a face of despair. And, you don't know how much that meant to these guys to have you come down and actually personally come visit and see the damage. Piggyback on what Representative Laricchia talked about on these farmers that don't have that 1,000-pound threshold yet to qualify for insurance. We've also got processing plants. These guys got these processing lines. They don't qualify for that insurance either. So we need to remember that, and hopefully they can qualify for small business SBA loans as well. So, anyway, just thank you. Chairman McCall.
Thank you for helping us find where we were.
I'm a pretty good air traffic controller as well.
We couldn't find where we were going, so I called John and asked him, did he see a helicopter flying around anywhere, and how do we get to where we're going?
Shoot up a flare.
Good job at Hartsville, man.
What that tells you, for those that may be from Atlanta, that's what it's like in rural Georgia. When the man can't even find you on GPS. Sounds good.
Yeah, that somehow we wound up with we knew the address, but then we had coordinates that were dialed in, and the coordinates didn't match the address. So, but we eventually got there a little bit. Mr. Chairman, may I introduce? Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Mr. Commissioner, when just one thing, when you do meet with our next secretary in Washington, and we talked this morning a little bit about crop insurance. We honestly need some real substantive reforms. It is the absolute poorest investment I make on my farm, and I make poor investments all the time. I have bought more snake oil than anybody in the state of Georgia just because I think somebody thinks it might work. But some of the poorest investments I've ever made is crop insurance. It's one thing that banks do require, but the return on your investment is, I'm telling you, awful. And we really need, honest to goodness, if it costs me $35 an acre to insure my irrigated peanuts, and I've spent $300,000 on irrigation to hopefully stave off problems with droughts with some of my peanuts, there's a problem, and it's just a poor investment. It does not do what it needs to do, either for the non-traditional crops with blueberries and pecans, or it might be high enough to be pecan, but I really would like for you to implore real substantive changes that will allow. It's expensive. It is high as a cat's back, and the return to the farmer is awful. The only people that come out, I shouldn't say that, but most of the people that come out okay with crop insurance are those that have very, very, very low input cost, that throw the seed out there and they're not looking after it. And substantive changes to make, to provide a safety net. And that's what it should be, is a safety net. But it's not. It actually is a noose for farmers that are trying to do a good job. So that's all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, sir. And Mr. Chairman, I couldn't agree more. And it's probably, when you're looking at where the future of the next farm bill is going to go, the notion that we're going to return to more, direct payments, countercyclical payments, all those other terms that we used to use, that's just not I don't think that's in the game. Crop insurance is something where, that's the card we've played. We said, okay, we need the safety net, we need this, we just need it to work. And if the chairman would be inclined and others, y'all need to let the dust settle after the 30th. But if you want to put together just a work group of the committee, and let's go put some blue sky stuff on the thing and on the board quickly. I don't know that USDA understands quite yet that the new secretary has the full capability of viewing things at 80,000 feet and doing that. But they also need to understand he's an on-the-ground, hands-on guy too. And so it's going to be interesting how that balance and demand of time pans out once he gets there. But I just know he's going to get in the middle of this. And so I think we'd have a direct, I'd love to see us come forward with something from the committee with some ideas like that. Yes, sir.
Does anybody have anything else? Gary, thank you. Let me say one thing before Kelly comes. Back to Darlene's question about AI. Just when 65 degrees gets in, I hope it stays. Because it really can't survive after that. However, last year, some of the banks got to asking me questions about it. So I got Dr. Cobb, and I'm sure he would do it for any of y'all in the chicken growing areas to come and put on a little what if program. The next week, every bank in my area had a foot bath out by the front door with a sign that said, if you've been around chickens, please step in this. Because it's that much of an impact on them, not the farmers so much. I mean, it is on the farmers, but when the banks are hung out there with over half of their loans in chicken houses, then they get nervous. So I'm sure Dr. Cobb would, or somebody from y'all will come and explain the importance of biosecurity and even in backyard flocks, biosecurity, more so than probably a broiler house. And Gary, one more thing. Y'all have shut down swap meets and chicken shows and flea markets.
Effective last Thursday, we've stopped all poultry exhibitions, flea markets, those open markets, and that was collaboratively with our partners in Alabama and Tennessee. We arrived. We felt like that was an important thing to do, particularly when these last couple of discoveries in Alabama were at flea markets. We did and it was I told Chairman last night, it was, we did that unapologetically, and we did it about as kindly as we knew how to do it, but we were still kind of saying, okay, what's the reaction going to be? And our inspectors found all across the state on Saturday, people were saying, we think y'all are looking after us. Thank you. So, that's a, a little bit of a win. But I think you've got to narrow your, vectors, eliminate the possibilities wherever you can. And one last thing too, Mr. Chairman, we have 9 trained foaming teams. If they have to go into depopulation mode, then we feel real good about that. But the critical thing we talked about in the exercise yesterday, and this is where y'all may hear it, but I think we talked about it last year. Ventilation shutdown is where you actually turn the ventilation off and turn the heat off in the house, and turn it up. Excuse me. It's actually quicker. It's a quicker depopulation. It's a little different. USDA uses it as a matter of last resort. But I can tell you this, if we hit in what we discussed yesterday, if we were on the edge of Baker County and if we hadn't, if we're in an isolated place where it's just one integrator and one farm not too terribly far from anywhere, then you know, we'll use probably our foaming teams. But if this were to hit us in a concentrated area, we're not going to wait around that. We're going, of course, we're going to work with the integrators. But ultimately, the integrators call because it's the integrators' chickens. But what I'm trying to frame for you, we're going to be very aggressive. We don't want to be sit around waiting on. You know, I'm thankful DOT in North Georgia. I think we've got 30 tankers that usually would be used for grinding roads, but they're full of water, and if we need them, we know how to deploy, and we've got the teams all put together because if I remember correctly, it's about 7,000 gallons a house to foam a house. But why are we waiting on all these assets to arrange when all you can do is when you can make those things happen on the farm without anything else? And that's what we hope to do. But Mr. Chairman, that's probably enough on that.
And you probably hear from, well, heck, from animal rights folks that it's not a humane way. They're gonna die anyhow. So do they smother with the heat and quick, or do you foam them and let them smother when they, you know, that's all the end result is the same thing. And
it's a delicate issue. You say, well, let's don't talk. No, let's hit it. Let's talk about it straight on. It's just what it is, and what you do it quicker, and you wind up preserving
the next,
you know,
yeah.
trying to stamping out the disease as quickly as possible. That's what's important.
Plus, when you cut the heat up, you're killing the virus. So, you know.
Sounds like we need more foot washing. I ain't talking about.
Chuck, yeah, go ahead.
Commissioner, if we get into a depopulation situation, how is disposal of that volume of carcasses handled?
Number one choice is on the farm itself.
Incineration
Burial.
or burial?
No burial, but either or, but primarily, if it warrants it, burial. And that's where our preparation with EPD and other state agencies, Georgia Forestry Commission, DOT, National Guard, our whole team is fully integrated, you know, with deploying equipment, excavators, whatever, you know, those kind of different assets that the state has. That's what our incident commanders have at their fingertip.
Thank you.
Oh, I've been in USDA.
Talking about them, but their idea of what to do, just be glad we live in Georgia, you know, where we are with Aggie Farm. Kelly, where's Kelly? Yeah. Kelly, tell us what you got, and Gary will be around if anybody's got any question later about what he talked about, but.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for having me. We at the Department of Agriculture are excited to be celebrating, highlighting, and promoting agriculture with Georgia Ag Awareness Week. And we kicked off the week on Monday, and we encouraged communities, schools, and our partners in agriculture, businesses, companies to participate in a Pennies for Produce, where they would collect the pennies and then we would donate them to local food banks across the state in order for them to buy fresh produce. And on Monday, you might have noticed our Georgia Department of Ag's photo exhibit, The Seasons and Faces of Agriculture, is set up over in the plaza area of the Sloppy Floyd building. So I hope that you've been able to see that. And if not, take a minute to go over there and look into the faces of those farmers who work so hard for us every day to provide food and fiber. Yesterday, we celebrated Flavor of Georgia Day, where 33 finalists came to the Georgia Railroad Depot to compete for the winner of their category and overall winner. And today we celebrate Ag Hero Day. And tomorrow is Ag Literacy Day. We've encouraged our businesses and partners in Ag to go out and read an ag-related book in the schools. And then on Friday is Make My Plate Georgia Grown Day. And Misty Friedman, our school nutrition coordinator, has put together a Georgia Grown menu for schools to serve in the cafeteria. So if you're able to get to a local school system that's participating, please enjoy a Georgia Grown lunch. But back to today, we celebrate those ag heroes and for the food and the fiber that they provide. There are many schools across the state and businesses that are writing thank you notes to farmers, just recognizing them. And today this dream came alive in a coffee shop in Commerce, Georgia. Misty and I were meeting to discuss Ag Week, and our coworker who is also here, Lee Lancaster, he made this happen. We were discussing this after a conference call one day, and so we got in the car and we traveled to Southeast Georgia. And being from South Georgia, Colquitt County, I thought that I had seen fields and for miles that don't end, but we visited the southeast part of the state, and there were times that I thought, I think we're just going in circles. But it was very exciting to meet these farmers, shake their hands, and say thank you. And they so graciously agreed to be a part of the Ag Hero video. And we thought, let's celebrate these farmers and thank them for being our true superheroes, because they provide food and fiber for us. So take a minute and sit back, and we want you to view the video that we will be pushing out through our social media outlets. You also have reminders on your desk with the link for Georgia Grown TV, so be sure to share and these in your community. Okay. I know we tested this out before everyone got in the room to make sure. Uh-oh, sorry. No one put on tights, so don't you worry. But yes, you will see some that they were all about playing the part, complete with the cape and mask, and through their, they were naturals. Many of them were naturals. So I think maybe if we'll just hit the projector. Might have just turned off. Mm-hmm. No, that's okay. I was just thinking, well, this is just building the anticipation of seeing this. It just looks like it's off, so we need to just hit power.
All of us sitting around here making decisions for the state, we got to call in a few 20 years old to run the whole shoot.
Yay. While we're waiting, all of the activities and what's going on throughout the week can be found through Department of Ag's website. It'll get you to our feedmyschool.org site, and you'll be able to click on Georgia Ag Awareness Week and see the things that are going on and also all the resources that were provided. Okay, yay. All right, now let's just hope this.
Faster than a Leghorn bullet, more powerful than an irrigation motor, able to reap small grains on a single ground. Look, out in the field, it's a truck, it's a plow, it's a farmer. Extraordinary visitor from another agronomic galaxy who tends the earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of finite men. A farmer who can change the course of mighty terraces, cut hay with their bare hands, and plant a ton of seed with super navigational powers from his sidekick, the satellite in the sky. These resilient sentinels, with the aid of technology, till, grow, cultivate, propagate, raise, gather, pick, milk, and harvest more produce, beans, grain, beef, milk, eggs, and fiber than anyone since the dawn of time. Farmers, feed the world.
What's your superpower?
Thank you.
That's going to all the schools, right, Kelly? Going out to where schools can get it.
It is. It's on Georgia on TV. The link is there, and we'll also be pushing it out through our social media outlets as well for you to be able to share. We can also send you the link if you don't want to have to do anything, and just email it to you if you want that.
Well, thank you. Has anybody had, did Miss Darlene?
Copy from my website? Absolutely. Sure.
Does anybody else have anything? Well, y'all, this is probably the last one for this session. Thank you to all of y'all that always show up, and all the committee members for getting here at these 8 o'clock meetings on Wednesdays and for doing your job to take care of Georgia's biggest industry. So we appreciate it. Gary, if anybody's got any questions, you hang around. Well, thank y'all very much for another session going by.